fissured, parchment-like skin, shiny, crinkled cellophane paper-like skin, or asymptomatic hyperpigmented macules. Like, I could not be the most unpleasant description to my ears. We're back.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Chemist Confessions podcast, a human conversation on all the skincare science we talk about on the daily. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Gloria.
And Gloria, today, what are we talking about?
Today, we are talking about seasonal skincare.
Ooh.
More specifically, summer skincare.
Yeah.
And what's really bizarre is, for those of you who don't know, we're based in LA. LA's been really cool.
Summer has not been summer.
Yeah.
And LA people are not themselves right now.
Yeah. And I realized that complaining about the weather in LA is probably
the worst offense.
Yeah. It's definitely a first world problem to have. It's been a little chilly. So that's why the summer episode has been a little slow to come out. But we're doing it. It's finally sunny and it's all about summer skincare. But before we get into it, let's start on some nice words.
All right. First one is about our baby steps exfoliation treatment. The title is Baby Steps Are Still Steps Forward.
I love it.
So thank you guys for the very creative title. So this person writes, I've been working on my skin barrier and needed an exfoliating step that didn't ravage my hard work. I use it once a week as a 10-minute mask and it doesn't sting/burn. Just makes my skin look awesome the next day. If you don't believe me, give it a try. You know you love all the CC products, so go get a refill on your faves and get the free mini trial with your purchase. You'll be glad you did. Wow, amazing.
I promise this is not our friend nor our husband.
Pay this person.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's great. Baby Steps is designed for the beginner and those who may have a sensitivity to AHAs or have been hopefully not literally that have been burned before. It contains 30% gluconolactone, that is a PHA, and 15% lactic acid. And my favorite way to use this is also as a rinse off mask. Yeah. But this can also be used as a mix and booster. Yeah. So just your AHA journey should be yours, and I love this.
Yeah. But otherwise, we're going to move on to our next review. This is Bon Voyage. The title is In Chemist We Trust. Thank you.
This person wrote, I was really nervous to try a petroleum step in my acneic skin. I use this as a final step in my routine in the evening and have loved the results. It feels lovely going on. I feel like I'm doing something so protective and restoring for my skin as I sleep. I find all kinds of ways to use this product. I apply it as a little heavier under my eyes, and the hydration has been improving the looks of my under eye. I use it on my cuticles, I use it as a chapstick, and on my dry elbows. Trust, this stuff is high quality and nourishing.
Yay, amazing. Yay. And I do want to clarify, she does write petroleum, but it uses petrolatum. And so not gasoline. But other than that, I think she captures everything we wanted in Bon Voyage and being able to, we always tell people get creative with this balm, and she definitely does that. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I think that's really it.
Yeah, and I love that this is coming from the perspective of someone with oily skin. We do always say that occlusives and oils can be good for oily skin too. It is about finding the right one and also finding ways to use it so your skin can take advantage of it. So
absolutely. All right. Last but not least, we got to talk about Mr. Reliable 2.0 as always. The title is Exactly What I Have Been Looking For. And this person writes, lightweight, feels good on the skin, wears nicely throughout the day. Love it. Already replanning on repurchasing when I run out. I really love mixing it with Gold Standard a few times a week for quick and easy exfoliation.
Woo!
Yay.
Not much to say. This is one of our fan favorites and one of our biggest struggles in developing our line to date.
Yeah. There will be more, I'm sure.
I always feel like when we're developing this product, a lot of times Victoria and I talk about concepts or ingredients that we're really impressed by that we really want to incorporate. And then we start formulating. We're like, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
And doing this product really felt like that meme where some guy was like putting the stick in his bicycle and tripped over, like kind of like, oh, I wanted all the actives. What could go wrong? Oh, why is it so hard?
And then you reach the finish line. You're like, let me just shoot my foot real quick.
But we're so glad this is finally done and out there and at a place that we can proudly say we did it.
Yeah. And I also love that she uses our gold standard to boost it for a few nights with some AHA. So I thought that was really cool. But otherwise, I definitely want to recommend everyone to please like take a look at all the reviews for yourself. These people actually include their skin types, their routines, and even their age, which is incredibly helpful, and we just think makes the reviews even more meaningful. Like we said before, we don't incentivize these. We're very proud of all of them. So we hope that it just you guys can use this as like just further assistance in your skincare journey. But otherwise, Chemist Coin?
Yes. So if you are curious about the line, please use the coupon code Chemist Coin for $5 off.
Not an NFT, guys.
Not an
Nor
NFT.
Bitcoin.
But cold hard $5 cash. There's no minimum purchase requirement. So if you want to give the line a whirl and try our experiment kit, you can enjoy $5 off of that as well. So yeah, check out our line on our website, but it's time to get into the meat.
Because Meatz.
We have the meat. All right, summer routine time. I'll be honest, guys. Routine topics are kind of tough for us sometimes because it is a little personal. So because I told Victoria, I volunteered, I was like, I got this. And then when I started writing or like putting this episode together, I'm like, I don't got this. I have no idea what to write.
Let me phone a friend.
Exactly. So I phoned all of y'all. I did a series of polls on Instagram to see.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it's actually fascinating because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we poll the people, I'm like, I know what people are going to like. But this, I have no idea. So first off, I asked, do you change up your routine for summer? And what's interesting is about half of you, 54% of you said yes, just a few tweaks. And a good third of you said, nah, my routine is pretty consistent. And only 8% of you say major overhaul needed, which I'm like, that's great. You really don't need to completely nuke your routine between seasons.
Yeah.
Though I do think a lot of publications out there are still make it sound like
and marketing.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
Where did you fall?
I am in that pretty consistent bucket.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm the one that's just a few tweaks. So
yeah,
there you go.
We fit the poll as well.
Yeah.
And then I followed that up with, if you do tweak your routine during the summer, what step do you change up? And this one wasn't as surprising to me. Only 3% of y'all change up your cleanser routine, which I find really interesting because, yeah, if you think about a clean skin is a clean skin, like there's no changes needed.
Yeah.
But I did see a lot of articles out there that's like the perfect summer cleanser. Like that's a cleanser that works, a good cleanser year round.
Good point.
Vast majority of you change up the moisturizer step, and I suspect this is where Victoria falls in as well.
So I think if I could have two, it would have, funny enough, would be cleanser and moisturizer. Moisturizer, definitely, I would have chosen that one. But cleanser, because during summer, the sunscreen use is so heavy that I do feel like skin gets so congested that it's actually, weirdly enough, the time I would double cleanse, which I feel like is the opposite of what dry skin people do, which is they'd rather do probably the cleansing oil, cleansing balms during the winter. But yeah, I don't know. That was the only thing, which is a little odd, but it's just after the sunscreen challenge, I've never more realized that I should start looking into those guys.
Bless Victoria. She volunteered her skin for some very
tinted,
little heavy-handed.
Y'all kicked my skin. Y'all kicked my skin's ass.
About 12% of you said you will tweak up your active game. Good 20% of you said other or nothing at all. And the people that fall in this bucket, most of the DMs I got about this is nothing. You wouldn't change your routine during summer. So yeah, let's dive right into it. We kind of want to touch on these steps, why you might consider changing it during the hotter month, and also if there's any science around this.
Totally. So first things first, we got to talk about step 1, which is cleanser. And like Gloria kind of hinted at, if you have a good one, you really don't need to change too much here.
Yeah. But like as Victor was telling us about her journey with pouring into double cleansing, which I know she doesn't like doing because of the tinted sunscreen.
And you have to do it's an extra step.
Yeah, for me, this is like kind of a lifestyle thing if there's any changes at all. Because during the summer, I tend to be outside a lot more, sometimes go on hikes, just more active in general. Something about going on hiking dusty LA make you feel extra gross. And that is when I find myself like being very rigorous with cleansing afterwards.
For sure. And also, this is going off tangent, but in my journey of double cleansing, I know balms are meant to be like travel friendly, but in terms of like regular lifestyle, I find them to be not as or I guess more cumbersome than oils because you're usually double cleansing at night, right? And I'm usually double cleansing when I'm showering. And when you have to open a balm in a shower, it doesn't feel great. And then like you have to get a spoon or your hands that are wet. And I just feel like there's something about the cleansing balm that's just not as easy to work with.
Yeah, for sure. And I know like most balms have more of a residue than even oil cleansers, which Victoria loves.
And by love, she means really doesn't like, So the second step of cleansing with blank slate is like extra vigorous.
Yep. The aggression definitely comes in.
Which is probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
If you remember our cleansing topic last time, but yes.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a great cleanser, definitely check out our cleanser episode or our cleanser blog post. This is not a category I would really think you need to shop seasonally for, but might just tweak up based on situational.
Totally. All right. Step 2, moisturizer. And this is probably the biggest focus during summer.
The real meat of the episode. You get a lot of articles that come out talking about how, like this is a refreshing moisturizer just for the summer month. And all this focus is on, I think, more watery hydration rather than a hardcore moisturizer. So first things first, I got really curious about how obviously when the weather is different, it's hotter, maybe more humid depending on where you're at, the sun is out, is your skin actually different? And I looked up a bunch of studies and found this kind of interesting analysis that was done in Europe. They tracked 25 female subjects, so not a large study, but still gave us some interesting insights. They evaluated their legs first during winter and again during summer of the exact same subject. So it's one of the few studies I could find that tracked the same people and not like a large cohort of survey-based studies. Barrier functions was determined by measuring transepidermal water loss or TOOL, and skin hydration dryness were evaluated by corneometer. And visual grading was also done. What was really interesting is they also sampled the stratum corneum and did like a chemical analysis on the composition thereof. So all that to say, the quick takeaway that I find really interesting is this is not super surprising to me, but skin is definitely, the SC is definitely going through more during winter. You tend to be drier. And what's interesting to me is they also looked at inflammation markers, and your skin tends to be more inflamed during winter as well. And what was really interesting is this isn't just reflected in higher transepidermal water loss or lower skin hydration. Your skin lipids is actually also a little different between the seasons.
Totally. And I find that now, I do think people's reaction toward this may be like, does that mean I need to think about the lipid ratio differently in winter and summer? We would definitely say no. This is more of just your skin adapting to different climates. And if you can refer back to our skin barrier episode a couple episodes ago, where we kind of talked about how your skin is constantly modifying based on climate and even humidity. And because of that, I think if you remember, we talked about how like your skin can actually be fooled into a certain amount of evaporation and water loss because of the change in humidity in these kind of like climate environments. So anyways, it's just something for people to understand. It's just the nature of skin and skin's ability to adapt, because as much as we do treat skin like this very fragile thing that needs to be constantly pampered and cocooned, it is an organ. It's living and has the ability to adapt, you know, as necessary. Yeah.
I also love that this analysis kind of gives it a little bit more weight of the notion that during winter you need that more protective moisturizer.
Yeah.
Whereas summer, you can maybe, depending on your skin situation, you can ease off and use, generally speaking, a lighter moisturizer.
Which is what I do.
Yes.
I'm just going to put it out there. That's exactly what I do. Yeah. So, I mean, on top of that, Laura also found a study, quite a tiny one that was done in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And they just wanted to see what would basically happen if you cut moisturizers out of your life entirely.
Yep.
And what skin would do. And I did really want to touch on this just a little bit, just because what the study did was they took subjects of various ages and had them stop moisturizers completely and then see. Basically, the idea is, how long would it take skin to adapt? And so, you know, kind of on the topic of adaptation, they found that it took roughly about 3 weeks to a month for the skin to recover. And the reason why we wanted to share this data point is not necessarily to say that, does that mean I don't need a moisturizer? No, not necessarily. The idea is that if you are someone that is going through maybe some skin changes, some dryness, suddenly your skin barrier doesn't seem to be super happy, this 1 month framework is a good time allotment to give your skin to fully kind of adjust to whatever you're doing in your skincare routine, or even just giving it time to kind of adapt to those changes, which I feel like is why when people travel, then it's people suddenly are feeling like, oh my God, my skin is not happy and has not been happy for the entirety of the trip.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it is what it is. And it does happen. And I think this is also an angle you can look at to think about how long does it take for you to evaluate if a moisturizer is right for your skin. I will say in the study, something else that's kind of interesting and not surprising is that when these study subjects went cold turkey on their moisturizer, people who are younger recover a lot faster from that initial shock and dryness. Symptoms tend to be milder than older people. So if you feel like your skin is having a harder time adjusting to seasons, to traveling, it's probably not your imagination. It does happen. And all I have to say is, you know, like during summer, if you are experiencing these changes, just kind of keep calm. It is not time to completely toss out your moisturizer. Yeah. So say it's going to winter and it's drier, then you can maybe consider adding oil or a balm to kind of help it transition a little bit. Yeah. Or during summer, if your skin is a little oilier, keep calm and just, you know, light tweaks.
Yeah, I would say for oily skin, one thing I think Laura and I will talk about this later, but it's like usually I need to dial back. And so in the most humid of climates, I can actually get away with just using a humectant forward product. So that's kind of the way to think about it, is just you're just dialing it back ever so slightly. You're not completely nuking your moisturizer routine.
Right. Yeah. And since skin barrier is doing, generally speaking, a little bit better during summer. And of course, the study that we just mentioned talked about skin natural recovery even if you go cold turkey on moisturizer. There are still going to be a few people that's like, well, maybe I don't need one during summer. And we also found a few studies to kind of suggest counterpoints on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Gloria found this study that was done in Japan. It's about 44 subjects. So they wanted to use they call it pseudoceramide, which Gloria and I don't know what to do with that, but we're going to move on. But anyways, it's a specific moisturizer with pseudoceramide and eucalyptus extract for Japanese patients. But the focus here is not necessarily that it's about this combination, but it's about the tests they conducted, where they wanted to look at skin that either used this formula versus didn't use this formula through summer months and see basically what skin would do. And the results are actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. So during summer in Japan, the weather tends to be pretty hot and humid. And the subject did show an improvement even without moisturizer. It's just the natural reaction to this type of environment.
Yeah.
But it did show that with the cream, erythema itchiness were significantly improved only in the treated group. So you can think of it as, in terms of your humectants, occlusive, like the core functionality of a moisturizer is like, it's there, it will help, but your skin is naturally already better. But kind of the frills of everything else, like your barrier helpers, your ceramides, those things play a more important role to help your skin stay on top of it when you get to the fall season as well.
I also thought it was interesting because they did a skin hydration. They did a tool on the forearm. They also saw that, only with the treated group did it increase significantly. Yeah. So I almost felt like the summary here was that in summer months, skin fares better with dry skin. Yeah. But if you still want to tackle the kind of core issues of dry skin, you still need a moisturizer. That was kind of like my takeaway. And the reason why is because they talk about, without application, scaling and dryness still improve. But how they assess that is actually a visual assessment. I kind of looked into it more, and it's usually done by, an expert grader, and we'll show the scale here of what this visual assessment of skin dryness looks like. And it's basically like flaking. You're looking at scaling, flaking, and you just want to see less of that kind of like that visual look. But I feel like the tool measurement is what Gloria and I still really value here. So it's saying that, moisturizers during summer can be helpful, but there is definitely, it's normal for people to feel like they don't need it during the summer, especially in humid climates. Yeah.
So to sum up, immediate hydration need might not be as high, but barrier care needs stay consistent throughout summer.
Totally. Yep. Great. Cool. All right. So we should do with all of that data, we should do a really quick refresher on, the balance of humectants, emollients, inclusives, and what we do.
Yeah, so to kind of quickly refresh everyone's minds on the constituents of a moisturizer, you have your humectants. These are the water stuff. Think panthenol, glycerin, hyaluronic acid, the beta-glucan, even lactic acid at low levels is considered a humectant.
Sodium PCA, NMFs, yep.
So check out our blog post for kind of a more detailed rundown of the humectants. And what they do is they act as water grabbers. The top layer of your skin is mostly a crunchy beef wellington. It is dry, but you don't want it to be crunchy. No. So the water substance help make it pliable. And the presence of water also help improve and upkeep your cell function, which is to say it will turn over at a much more normal pace. And that's humectants. Next, we have emollients.
Yeah, so emollients, these are your light face oils. They are going to smooth the surface of skin. They're going to help, honestly, just visually make your skin look less scaly and add that glow back into skin. And really, these can be especially helpful for oily skin types, even though the thought of oil sounds scary, because these actually can serve as almost like a lighter version of occlusives to kind of add a little bit of that oily nourishment back into skin. It can be incredibly helpful because remember, humectants cannot operate alone because these want to evaporate out of skin. So you need something that's going to really help with managing all of that water content.
Yep. Last but definitely not least, we have occlusives. And these are your more hardcore butters, waxes, petrolatum, heavier substances that can help, that can actually improve tool. Yeah. They are there to seal in moisture, prevent water evaporation. Heavier molecular weight dimethicone can also function like this. And this is definitely one category I feel like that gets tossed under the bus immediately during summer month, because the higher the water, the waxy substances, moisturizers can feel a little heavy. But I will say, as someone with dry skin, this is still a category I cannot go without, even during summer.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, yes, it doesn't necessarily feel great in hotter climates, but especially for chapped skin, lips, elbow. Like, my elbow is so dry right now. You're going to need inclusive. So yes, still necessary and helpful during summer. But yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to sum up the moisturizer section, Victoria, what do you do during summer?
Everything stays the same. Okay, so I typically am using a humectant serum which is our Aquafix, and our moisturizer, Mr. Reliable. That's usually my staple. But in the summer months, and especially if we're traveling to Asia, I usually just only need Aquafix, and I am good. Recently, now that I'm breaking out like a teenager because of the pregnancy hormones, I only need Aquafix like day in and day out, and that's it. So that's my life right now, and that's really the only changes I'm going through with my moisturizer routine.
Yeah, so Victoria takes a classic approach of really dialing back close to zero on the occlusives and
pretty
emollients.
Much, yeah.
Me, I am more or less pretty consistent. My typical routine is Aquafix followed by Mr. Reliable, both morning and night. Obviously, morning I'll follow with sunscreen. But during summer, I tend not to need the frill steps. Like during winter, that's still my staple. Yeah. But depending on my mood, I typically add a drop or two of the oil. Yeah. I almost always need to use the balm around places where I tend to develop drier patches. During summer, I can be a little bit floofy about when I need that occlusive.
I was going to ask, do you slug during summer?
I don't slug.
Okay.
I think that's a little heavy-handed. At least I just don't love the texture.
Okay.
And I do tend to, I typically don't develop dry patches during summer. Yeah. For me, it's actually sensitivity. So if I'm out in the sun for a really long time, yes, I've tried to be good with reapplication, wear a hat, that works. But sometimes when you're out for a long time and you're sweaty, reapplication isn't great.
That's true.
Sometimes I still get that flushed afterwards. And I feel like something about beaches tend to, like, it feels terrible on the skin afterwards.
Totally. And I know this is jumping ahead, but I would say probably one of the main reasons why I dial back so much of that oil content is because we're sunscreening. And I just feel like the sunscreens add enough oil for me. Yeah.
For real. And so for me, if I have the sensitivity patches, that's where the occlusives come in. But otherwise, lightweight moisturizers will do the job for me.
Yeah, totally. I would also say this is probably for those of you looking at toners and like milky essences. This is where some of those steps can be enough. I think the milky essences more than, the water, just straight water stuff. But yeah, that was just one thing I wanted to add, especially because it looks like milky essences are very popular right now.
They're a thing. And I will say, as someone with dry skin, those don't do it for me. I think that there's a misconception that people with dry skin love heavy, greasy textures. That is, at least for me, that is so not true. I still like light, refreshing, yet nourishing textures. And I feel like these milky essences sometimes
they're just milky. That doesn't mean they're more hydrating.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of the formulas we've seen are really light, even light on the humectant. So it definitely doesn't replace your standard moisturizer.
Totally. And of course, one last PSA announcement for sunscreen.
Just do it.
Yeah, it's summer. You have to do it. But other than that,
this is it for Meat Part 1. And in Meat Part 2, we are going to dive into actives and other fancier stuff during summer.
But we need a break.
Let's take a break.
All right, let's break it up. Break it up.
All right, cool. Today.
Okay. All right, today it's Gloria's turn.
We have
Badger.
Mushroom.
I don't think anybody knows this reference anymore.
No, if you know the badger thing,
please let us know so we don't feel sad.
Please write to us.
Oh God,
that's the OG interwebs, my friend.
Oh God. Okay. Yes, badgers. You might have heard of badgers before because we shared a story about a badger breaking out of a zoo. And how that zookeeper just had such a hard time keeping that dude in.
Stoffel, the honey badger.
Right? And that was the one that they tried to get a mate for it to distract it, and then they teamed up together to break out.
Yeah, he will climb on her back to break out of the zoo. Like, they will roll like little rocks to make a ladder. And so smart. Anyway,
badgers are back, though.
Badgers are back. This time, it's about the European badger.
Yes.
We had Clarkson's Farm on the other day. And
fascinating show if you're curious about farming.
Yeah, it's a deep rabbit hole on things that you don't typically think about, and super interesting. And something we learned about the show is badgers in the UK are in the gold tier protection status. You can go to jail for hurting a badger.
12 months.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah. So it's even though the population has really bounced back since putting that in place, it's on the least concerned tier in terms of species conservation, but the protection around it stays.
Yeah.
But yeah, so backtrack a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what these animals are all about. I find their scientific name to be kind of cute.
Yeah.
Badger is a huge category of animals you'll find all over the world, but the European badger's scientific name is Melis.
I was thinking of the dessert mellow.
yeah, it sounds delicious.
But also mele, which is also scary because badgers are mean.
Yeah, badgers are mean mofos. And I think what's kind of interesting to me is that it has a different genus name than all these other badgers I've seen. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Because I am not a specialist in badgers. So anyway.
Okay.
They're generally speaking nocturnal.
Okay.
They're very social. They usually they do hibernate in winter. They travel around and hang out in groups of 6 to up to 20. So very family oriented creatures. It's interesting because they're known to be pretty mean creatures, but when it comes to their homes, like their burrows, they make these very sophisticated tunnels. They're altruistic. They don't really mind if you hang out in their home. So a lot of times you can actually find rabbits and sometimes even foxes chilling out, and they don't care. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think it's specifically this type of badger?
I think it's very specialized to European badgers because honey badgers will F you up.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think those guys share.
But these are pretty chill.
Yeah.
They're classified as carnivores, but they really eat anything. They'll eat berries or whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah. They are also, what I find really fascinating about the badgers is they're also super vocal. They make a huge range of sounds. I read the description first. They're like, they chatter, they growl, and they even bark. I was like, bark? So I looked it up and I put it up here to the link for those who are curious.
Yeah.
And one of the YouTube comments I find so accurate is they're like, they sound like my cat when I'm trying to pry the chicken bone out of her mouth.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, and then they also make like really like
chirpy kind of sound.
And when they're in a group, sound. Yeah, they're like, it sounds like they're bickering all the time. They're just very, very chattery creatures.
Okay. So very social in the UK, hanging out. Okay.
Adorable. And obviously a lot of people love the badger. They think European badger is like kind of this unique.
It's native.
We have to protect the badger.
It's our spirit animal.
Before we dive into it, I just want to say it's not like we're here saying, like F the badgers, come on. But they're a problem because they carry bovine tuberculosis.
Yes.
And it is a very costly problem.
Yeah. And that is the reason why that's not great is because UK agriculture has already suffered due to Brexit. And so if you ever watch the show, they kind of go through how painful it is and actually how much money is spent and how debilitating it can be to these farmers when badgers pass TB to their cows. And so one of the craziest parts is taxpayers do have to pay for badger care, basically. And the amount per year is 150 million pounds.
Crazy.
Which is a substantial amount. So they have a badger problem, but it's protected. And so it's just another one of those species like the pigs.
Yeah.
They're just, not great for actual agriculture.
It just sounds like virtually there's nothing people can do about this. And if your cow catches bovine TB, unfortunately, it has to go. And there are farms that up to like 50% of their cows have caught it. And because badgers are such good burrowers, there's nothing the farmers can do to stop them from getting into the farms.
Oh, you can't. Their actual badger holes are that's weird. That's really weird. All right. Badger housing cannot be touched.
Yeah, which that to me I find like a little absurd.
Okay, anyway.
The badger holes are protected.
All the holes.
That to me is so absurd because I'm like, I can understand like it's protected. You can't kill it. You can't harm it. Fine.
It's also 40,000 pounds fine if you kill per badger.
Yeah, so fine, don't kill the badgers, but there has to be a way to prevent them from getting in your farm, right? Nope, because you can't harm its habitat. Yeah. You can't prevent them from burrowing in your farm. They
drink your cow's water.
Yeah, because why wouldn't they come for a free water source? So it just feels like when it comes to badgers, hands are tied and there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
And in the 2010s, England did try to pilot culling programs to kind of ease the bovine TB problem. Yeah. And it was very controversial because conservation groups were very unhappy with that decision. Mm-hmm. And it showed that in those towns, it did help. There was one town where it didn't help, and I couldn't really understand why. It was that the difference was like 10% or something. In other cases, the problem decreased by more than 60%. And of course, like depending on what outlet you read, some people will say these programs don't do anything. And then some places are like, it showed that it helps. So it's very, very controversial. And they even talked about developing a vaccine for both your cows and
that would be great.
And the badgers, even though I don't know who's vaccinating that badger, but that badger don't look like it wants to be vaccinated. But I did find a stat that's super interesting because the problem with vaccines is that you have to vaccinate enough animals
for it to work.
Right. And that is just not something that it seems like it's possible.
Also, I can't imagine let's say civilian perception of cows they eat being vaccinated feeling very good.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's like there's so much of this that's controversial and there isn't a good solution. Yeah. So in vaccination, so they actually did come up, they licensed a vaccine for badgers specifically called Badger BCG. The vaccine is only effective on animals that do not already have the disease. So if you find a badger in the wild, if you think about it, let's say there's 100 badgers. I don't know how many of them have TB already. Yeah. If you find it, you can't harm it, right? So first of all, it's like, okay, what do you have to do? Like, what, tag a badger, test it for TB? Oh no, it has TB. You have to go by and find the same badger. And there's no good way to do it. Yeah. And the cost of the vaccine is also not cheap at all. They actually did it by surface area because obviously there's so many badgers out there. They can't possibly vaccinate all of them. Kind of did a calculation and said that for this to be effective, you're talking about 2,000 pounds per kilometer square per year.
Oh my God. And of course, that's taxpayer dollar.
Yeah. So these programs are, they're funding behind these programs, but it just doesn't seem like it's really solving the problem. So yeah, that's where we are right now with badgers and
legislation and archaic legislation.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like oh, like as an animal lover, of course, you don't want the solution to be culling a species at all. And I think the similar thing, not quite similar, but in Australia, that's happened before too, where they protect their native species. And when that's gone too well, like, and then the population of certain species go crazy, and they actually have to, kind of like deer populations in the Northeast. There's actually a decrease in interest in hunting.
Yep.
And there are places where deer destroying the habitat because of how many there are, and they actually couldn't get enough people to take up these hunting licenses. So it's like kind of a balance of everything.
Yeah, everything in moderation, and understand that when one population rises, usually that means other populations fall, and also natural foliage, things like that. So, you know, it's all about really maintaining than like, you know, saying that we have to get rid of this entire animal group.
Exactly. So good luck. I don't know what. There's no conclusion.
Insert cute badger face here.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
So to end on this note, just badger. And that is how fast they reproduce as well.
All right. Yay. Oh, rough. But anyways, thank you for the badger.
That's the European badger problem.
All right. So now it's time to get back into the meat.
Meat part 2.
Let's do it. And it's all about actives.
Yep. I didn't pull on every types of actives, but I did pull on retinoids, which is probably the first thing.
Yeah, for sure.
If you read the online journals, they usually talk about this during summer.
Yep.
So I asked the people if they use retinoids during summer, and the choices are stay the course, yes, by dial up in strength, definitely not, and retinoids not really part of my routine anyway.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Only 10% of you said retinoids not part of your routine, so definitely lots of retinol lovers out there. Only 7% said definitely not. 10% said yes, by dial down in strength, and a whopping about 3/4 of you said, yeah, I just stayed the course.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's honestly no reason to not use retinol during summer.
For sure. I was just going to ask, like, or not even ask, I was going to add that I'm pretty sure there is no like acne skin type out there that's giving up their retinoids during the summer.
Oh, yeah. No way.
No way in hell.
Yeah. And usually we say, yeah, stay the course. Dial down in strength if you need, especially for people like me. I already have enough trouble. My skin's not super duper retinol tolerant. And let's say if I'm going, you know, again, like hiking, going by the beach, or I'm doing whatever that makes my skin feel a little bit more sensy than usual, then I feel like I don't need to punch up.
For sure.
But I will say that the takeaway from retinol talk is really just sunscreen, guys. Sunscreen, just do it.
Yeah, for sure. There are a few scenarios here that maybe you can think about tweaking actives, and kind of like you were saying with sensitive skin, this is probably the one area where summer, it's just like you're sweating more.
Yeah.
You're applying sunscreen. You're probably getting a lot more sun. This would probably be a time where it makes sense to dial back a little bit. I was also going to add, summer is probably a period where it's probably not the best idea to start a retinoid.
That's true, yeah.
Just because I think that your skin's about to go through a lot, and then you're going to need to sunscreen more frequently. You're going to have an onboarding period where you're going to deal with dryness and flakiness. And I would say summer is probably a weird time to kind of wrangle all of that in when you're kind of out and about. You're also, I don't know. That's generally my advice.
Yeah, and I also think now there's a lot of articles out there to talk about, can you use retinol during the day?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that's like, it's totally fine. There's no reason to not to do it. Like, I'm all for it. Technically, that's true. Yeah. You can use it during the day. Again, like, keep up with your sunscreen habits.
Yeah.
For me, where I kind of draw a thin line is, I think there's nothing wrong with using it during the day, but people should also be realistic with their sunscreen habits in general when you're on retinol.
Yeah.
Retinol is an ingredient that works if you use once a day. There isn't a lot of need for you to have to double up and use it day and night. but I feel like some of the articles, their tone is almost like very casual.
Oh, very cavalier. Like,
yeah, of course.
Whatever. There's no difference between that and a peptide.
Yeah, exactly. Just use it whenever. Just still know that your skin is a little bit more sun-sensitive, and you should absolutely be protecting from the sun. If nothing else, even if it doesn't cause additional sensitization, why would you neg out retinol's hard work by not protecting yourself from the sun?
Have we hit that cycle where it's like, oh, use whatever active you want? Because I felt like maybe 6 months ago we're like, too many actives, bad for skin, mass sensitivity. And then now we're back to use whatever the hell you want. More the merrier.
Yeah. Pummel your skin with retinol. It's awesome.
Okay, we've hit that cycle again.
Yep. And the other pretty common and can be aggressive active ingredient we want to talk about is glycolic acid. That one to me was really fascinating because for me, the immediate thought is like, well, I personally really enjoy good exfoliant during summer, especially just like sometimes like when you're outside for a long time, you feel extra grimy.
Yes.
And I was curious, and again, I looked up, is there any statistical difference between skin during hotter month versus colder month?
Oh, okay, cool.
And I did find one study. It is small, so take this with a grain of salt. Thought. Take it with a grain of salt. But it is reported that desquamation, which is the rate at which your skin turns over, is greater in summer during winter. So there is great individual variability in these data. And this is not surprising. Rates of desquamation is faster in younger than older individuals. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, we know that. But this is interesting to me because I do think even though I enjoy a good exfoliant during summer, there's definitely a risk to over exfoliating.
Yeah.
You don't have to dial back AHAs during summer, but again, read the I almost want to make a hips don't lie reference, but basically read the signs of your skin. If it's feeling, if you're staying course with your typical routine and it's feeling just a little sensy, listen to it. You might not need to do it as aggressively or as frequently. Just, that's it.
And also I think it's a fine balance during summer, right? Like if you start exfoliating too much, your sensitivity to sun also increases, which means your sunscreen needs to be like put a lot more into that effort. So it's just really a fine balance, you know, and I think it's easy. I think it's easy, especially during summer, to want to over exfoliate because you're grimy, sweaty, too much sun. You're probably also tackling like a little bit of pigmentation, and that's like one quick way to kind of like brighten skin really quickly. So I just feel like that's one habit that I could see happen a lot.
My personal confession is like I don't use more AHAs during summer, but I use a lot more physical exfoliants. Exactly as Victoria said, it's like that desire to just aggressively
summer gross skin cells.
Yeah, exactly. You can absolutely overdo either category, so just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, totally. All right, we should definitely talk about hyperpigmentation during summer. For those of you that have been trying to tackle hyperpigmentation, it's a marathon. It is not something that is solved. Realistically, it's not really even something that's going to be solved in even 2 months. The time period requires, much longer, like even 6 months. And so you're definitely going to make your way into summer. Now, should you be changing up those actives? Not necessarily, but I think also it's important to manage expectations during summer time period because you are getting more sun, so it may feel like you're not seeing a lot of benefit using your actives during this period, but we would just say stay the course and make sure your sunscreen habit is there too. Yeah,
exactly it. I think people are constantly expecting to see improvement. Well, pigmentation is already a difficult problem. During summer,
stubborn AF.
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot. So I would say summer, stay in the course, and if you see it being static, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, actually.
Sun is a no-brainer here. It's a big factor in terms of making your hyperpigmentation worse. But I also did find that other stuff also contribute to the hyperpigmentation problem.
Right.
Found this in a study done in India that talked about sweat-induced inflammation and irritation.
Oh, God.
And that can also lead to hyperpigmentation. So it's not just the sun that you're dealing with. Your skin is going through a lot in general. And inflammation is a big one. Even though the previous article talking about how inflammation is slightly less during summer compared to winter, I actually think that I kind of like raise my eyebrows at that, because I think there's so many changes that your skin goes through and people tend to be more exposed to the element during this time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the sweat study, I was like,
I also really didn't appreciate the description. So they call it sweat dermatitis.
Yeah.
And it says presented as dry, hyperpigmented, fissured, parchment-like skin, shiny, crinkled cellophane paper-like skin, or asymptomatic hyperpigmented macules. Like, I could not be the most unpleasant description to my ears.
Yeah, so Victoria and I went to Taiwan one time during July.
And never again.
Never again. Every night I felt like I had to cut the clothes off my body.
I have to tell this story. We were on our way to a meeting and it was so rough that we actually had to dip into a coffee shop because
it was only a 10-minute walk.
It wasn't that long, but we just could not take it.
Couldn't make it. It was that hot.
And then the worst part is because Taiwan's also, they're trying to conserve energy consumption during the summer because of AC has to run so much. The AC wasn't even that strong and we were struggling.
It was lukewarm at best. And oh my God, it was so tough. You know it's hot. You haven't experienced real hotness until the wind's blowing and you're like, can you stop? Because it's just blowing hot, humid air into my face.
And the other thing too is nothing sounds better than an ice cold beer, but some of those beers are lukewarm and that's as chilled as it gets.
Yeah, and I do feel like my skin was extra gross when we were going through that. It's really humid in Thailand during that time. And really hot. Oh my God. There's so many sports bras I had to abandon so I couldn't get it off.
Where you feel like you just literally, it's just like stuck to your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in Asia, those cities can come with pollutants as well. Yeah. So I really felt like I walked away 3 shades darker than before.
Yep, totally. Yeah. Anyways, we digress.
So other than sunscreening, during this time, your skin, if you're in, especially if you're in a pollutant heavy zone, if you are in a place where you sweat a lot, vitamin C is your best friend here. This is all about prevention. Obviously, vitamin C can also work actively on hyperpigmentation, but it's one of the key antioxidants to include here because it can help with everything we just described. It can help with that pollutant issue. It can help a little bit with any inflammation you might experience. It won't help with the sweating, but hey.
Question.
Yes.
Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, correct?
Yes, so that is the go-to recommendation, and our next meet will be all about an update on vitamin C. Victoria and I were looking through our old blog posts, getting ready for the website, and we're like, wow, we're due for a refresher on vitamin C.
And let's just say we are testing some vitamin C dupes. So we're very excited about it because it's been a long time coming for us to actually start looking at so many of these dupes of C. ferulic, and is there one that might be better? I don't know. I feel like Laura and I already have a couple losers, actually.
Oh yeah, actually those are easier to spot than winners for sure.
Some not looking so good.
And we know that a lot of you have questions on vitamin C derivatives. I did find a very interesting study done by Revision Skincare.
Okay.
And this one was done specifically during summer.
Ah, ballsy.
Yeah, so I find
not many brands are willing to do that because summer months you don't get as good results.
100%. And a lot of times you send these people home from the clinical testing site with their products, with a sunscreen that says, please use. And we can tell you from personal experience, in our past experience, there are people that I think are liars when it comes to sunscreen application. Because there are people that clearly come back looking like they just went to the beach.
Yeah.
That you found them And when they started the clinical, they were like Fitzpatrick 2, and they come back looking like Fitzpatrick 4.5.
And they're red, and the pigmentation is worse. And you're like, that is definitely not because of my product.
Yeah, you went to Key West, and you know it.
You went to Cancun, you liar.
So, yeah, ballsy that I did this.
Yeah.
They ran the study for 12 weeks from July to September. And they sent them home with their 30% THD ascorbate vitamin C serum.
We should say it is an open label study.
Yeah. So everyone knows what product they're using. And they also gave them a SPF 45 mineral sunscreen. And I find this interesting because the vitamin C was used twice daily. Very, very high level. And the sunscreen instruction was use it at least once a day, por favor. And this is a very small study. There's only 10 people. But what I find interesting
that is tiny. That is very tiny.
Yes. So they looked at hyperpigmentation specifically. And what I really want to highlight here is 70% of the subjects showed an improvement. And the average improvement was 33%. And the range is from 10 to 55 by end of study.
Okay.
3 subjects out of 10 did not see improvement. So this study,
3 subjects out of 10, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, and I think that's why like small studies to us is like directionally mildly interesting, but it's hard to have firm takeaways.
Totally.
So to me, the first takeaway is expectation, right? 30% THD twice daily is very, very high.
Totally.
And even then, you're not seeing a ton of improvement.
Yeah.
I would say even the 10% improvement to me is like, I can tell you that a 10% improvement is not going to be visually very exciting for you. Yeah.
You have to understand when they take these images and sometimes they mark the improvement, sometimes the imaging is like it's actually even more accurate than our own eyeballs in assessment. So that's why, that's why Gloria says like even at the 10% mark, you would be almost thinking like, I think my eyes are playing tricks on me.
Like, oh yeah, I think that's lighter. That might be a lighting thing. Yeah, but it might be better.
Yeah.
So yeah, and to me, that's just to say that if you're using say a more typical 15% C ferulic type formula once a day during the day, and you're like, this is not working for me, you're not seeing improvement. Is your skin holding steady state? Because if that's kind of the goal during summer, I would say, for hyperpigmentation.
Totally. And I also think this is a good representation of just hyperpigmentation and how like that is just how stubborn the skin concern is. And so to hear that 3 subjects didn't see any improvement is not surprising to us at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that kind of sums up this episode. Whether you tweak up your routine for between different seasons is entirely up to you, up to your skin condition. I hope it was interesting to see that there are statistical differences between your skin, between the seasons. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I did want to, do a quick sum up of everything. Products maybe you don't have to worry about. Cleansers. What else? I think really cleanser is probably the main one. Moisturizers is probably where you could do some minor tweaking just to lighten it up a little bit. And then in terms of actives, I think of all actives, if we had to pick one that you must have during summer, it would definitely be the vitamin C.
Yes.
Out of any of these guys. So yeah.
Otherwise, stay the course for the most part, and definitely sunscreen. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yay!
Where can I find us, Victoria?
You can find us on our Instagram at chemist.confessions. You can also write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com, where we actually answer most of your skincare questions. And also, if you have a skincare question from this episode, please add it to the comment section of this video. We are on TikTok. Our handle is Chemist Confessions, but we do not respond there. So do not ask us questions there. But otherwise, we hope you enjoy this podcast. We will see you guys next time. And next time is going to be about body.
Yeah, that was such the rage during COVID and even now with new products.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking, so it's time. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.